Hello?
Hey there. Do you remember that trip we took a while back?
Which one?
Well, not you and I, but me. That we just went to Branson a bit ago. Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, you and your family. Right, yes, okay.
A bit of the family. Have you ever been there? I don't know why I don't know the answer to that question. You hadn't been there.
No, I actually haven't.
Yeah.
No.
I found out a silly, teeny little fact there. And like I do, I found more facts about other things.
Sure.
That I'm going to tell you about. And they kind of just make me giggle. Do you have those things where you, like, you've heard something or you know something, but, like, you don't really think about it until somebody's like, where did that come from?
Yes.
Okay, well, the word showboating is one of them for me today.
Okay. What do you know about that word?
I feel like it's... I feel like it's a very old-timey way of saying show off, you know? So I'm just like, I feel like it's one of those things that I like hear and I'm like, yeah, that's what that means. Just like contextually, I know that's what you're trying to say. But it's like funny when you think about it. Uh-huh. Showboating.
It is pretty funny.
How often have you heard it?
I don't know how often. I've heard it several times. I don't know how often.
And like, but like when you're reading historical stuff or like in everyday context?
Everyday context.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm talking to the wrong people.
Okay.
This is irrelevant.
I mean, I do think it's been a little while. Since I don't think I ever read it in historical context.
That's fair. I'm trying to remember a single time when I heard it, but it's just fun to me now that I know even more about the actual showboating happenings. It's just more entertaining to me to hear like, oh, you're a showboater. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you more about showboating.
I've never heard showboater.
I don't think I have either. That's just what came out.
Okay.
I have no reason to say it that way. I just do. I'm gonna give you more historical context, and then I'm gonna tell you the one single tiny little funny fact that I learned on my trip in Branson.
Okay, I'm very curious to hear.
And that's just what I'm gonna tell you. I gotta build up the suspense. It's one little fact, but I'm gonna lead up to it.
I've never given this term much thought.
Yeah. That's fair. And I don't know if the historical context makes it more or less entertaining, to be honest with you, but in the use of that term. But showboating apparently originated on mostly the Mississippi and Ohio rivers in like the 1830s. Okay.
See, that seems much older than anything I would guess.
Really?
It came from. Yes. For me, right, if I really think about this word, I think about it and I'm like, it must have originated from yacht shows or something. I don't know.
That's fair. This is my entire life. This is my entire drive to research everything because inevitably it's not what I think it is.
Right.
Almost ever.
This is so far off already, and you've only told me a date. It's
not often that the dates stick in these stories. That's fun.
No.
So it was like 1830s to like 1940s-ish with a break for the Civil War because it was not safe.
Sure.
But it really started with one main family. It was a Chapman was their last name.
Chapman, like with a P?
Chapman. Yep.
Chapman.
Yep.
Chapman.
Chapman, I think. It was an A, I think.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess this was kind of along the time of like so in traditional European cultures, theater was a thing.
Oh,
and
in
the fledgling Wild West, where would they have done that? You know, like New York had theaters, like the, major cities all along the East Coast, because that was all the colonies. But as people expanded farther west, you couldn't build a theater and be profitable.
No, I guess I would guess on the little podium where they hang people.
Oh my gosh. I wish that wasn't accurate. No, they usually built those in a day specifically for those things. That's not what happened on showboats. Okay. What is wrong with you today?
I don't know.
It's a bad day. No, it was primarily one family, the Chapmans, and the reason they did it was like, okay, here's the thing though. Like, theater historically has been for the wealthy. Until Shakespeare's Globe Theater, but that's a whole other conversation. But typically you had to like pay for tickets, you had to pay for travel because it was very stationary in one place. And that's not where a lot of people lived. Which is where this whole idea of like traveling down the river, bringing your theater with you. And there was some contestation about which boat and which era had actually switched from like just traveling on the boat and setting up like, you know, on an open space or the gallows, apparently.
Babs, are you telling me there was a boat that held shows?
Yes. Showboat, my friend.
A showboat.
A showboat. And they did, They did Shakespeare plays. They did musical concerts. Here's the part that really messed with my brain. Apparently, at like the height of the showboating, so before the break of the Civil War forced on showboating, like horse shows were a big thing for the showboating community.
Okay. I really need you to be clear here, because I don't understand. Do you mean that the horses went on the boats, or do you mean that the people traveled on the horses and did the shows on the horses?
No. The horses and the peoples were on the boat.
Okay.
What's even...
What?
These boats didn't have power of their own, and I don't know why that's so giggle-worthy for me. They were like giant barges. Like, they had no power of their own. They were pushed by tugboats.
Yeah.
Which tugboat's just a fun word, and so the idea of them like pushing these giant barges that are showboats... It brings a whole new understanding when somebody says you're showboating. It does feel silly. And like, why horses? Like, I think this was around the time that the whole idea of like the circus and the traveling circus and all of this stuff was like starting to be a thing-ish.
So do we reckon that it was like the kind of horse showmanship that we see at like rodeos by the women in costumes?
I don't know this, but that's what I choose to believe. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Horse shows. That's not even how they word it. They use the equine word, but I cannot use that word.
The equine word.
I can't say it. Okay, I can't say it.
Don't say it.
I can say equine, but I can't say whatever the heck word they used with equine in it to mean horse show.
Oh, yeah, don't say it.
We all have our failings.
Yeah.
These were massive boats, and they just went down the river in towns, like people along the Mississippi and Ohio rivers could come to the showboat. And that's what you did for your entertainment. And they had all kinds of shows, and they just did these things. Okay. But this leads me to what like led me to look into showboating in general. In Branson, Missouri, there's a boat called the Branson Belle, that is a showboat. The showboat Branson Belle.
Sure.
Its claim to fame.
That's near a river, right?
Yes, but it's not on the river. Oh. Which is why it's even funnier to me. Its claim to fame is the largest boat on a landlocked lake that the United States Coast Guard had to come inspect. And I just want to know who got that assignment to go to Missouri to inspect this vessel. Because it was launched in 1994. So fairly recently, somebody in the Coast Guard had to go inspect this vessel.
That's silly.
It is silly. This one has an electric motor that powers a paddle wheel. That is giant. You could go out. So the main part of it is like a very open theater. They say it's like a 4-level boat, but it's like the levels are like balcony-esque so that you're like in a theater.
Okay.
But on the outside, like you can go, like every level has its outside area. So we were standing almost over the paddles, and They made me dizzy, and they made me very afraid. Don't fall over.
Oh, don't fall over.
Yeah, so it's the Branson Belle. It launched in August of 1994. It was built on the White River Landing and was pushed, as boats are, into Table Rock Lake. Which, do you remember when you called and told me about the concrete ships?
Yeah.
Did you tell me how they got in the water, or were they built in the water, or like near enough the water?
They were pushed in also.
They were pushed in.
I feel pretty certain.
Okay, so this was the fun fact that I learned about this. So I've often, not British, but anyway, I have, this is such a silly thing to say in all of my ship searching, all the ships that I've heard of, like it's another one of those things that you like know has to happen, but you never really put a whole lot of thought into it. And then I was looking at this stuff and I was thinking about you telling me about the concrete ships, and I was like, you can't build a boat or a ship or whatever you want to call any of the water vessels in the water.
Yeah.
But you have to get it into the water. So then I was looking at like how that's typically done.
Did you just learn about dry docks?
Maybe. Okay. I feel like you should tell me a little bit, and then tell me a little bit here.
I just learned about dry docks, and because there's this ship that like moved, so they pulled it into this area where they then like basically like it's like 3 walls of concrete kind of, and then they lift up the back wall to like kind of enclose it in, and then they drain that area. And what they have at the bottom of that area is are basically like moorings to like hold the ship up so that they can work on the hull and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which I did not know that's how they fixed ships.
I guess I never thought about getting it out of the ocean once it was in all of this research. Right. That is fascinating. So I guess, God, that's got to be a heck of a scheduling conundrum, because I'm sure they only have so many in so many places.
Yeah.
And if your ship is too big, that is fascinating.
Because the one that I learned about, I think that ship's there like pretty permanently.
So they built this whole concrete box for a ship that can no longer come out of it?
I guess. I'm very, I don't know.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I mean, I guess if it was built with that intent in mind, that is fascinating. And it's like so much different than like putting a personal boat in a lake.
Right.
When it's in the ocean, or some body of water that can get to an ocean or something.
Right. Like, yeah, if you're just pushing it into a river and then it goes they're down the river through the the woods. To grandmother's house we go.
No, they go over the river.
Over the river. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I guess I'm coming into my nautical era of life, I think.
Ooh, well, this is very exciting.
I think. But the reason this was, so it wasn't dry docking. I did not just learn about dry docking. I was kind of hoping I just had learned something under a different wording of some such. But to get boats into bodies of water, typically the ocean, are the ones that are that big that they have to be rolled in or some such. So I've seen some videos where they're like on like logs almost, where they roll into it. Or I've seen, things that build or set up like a tract that they release what's holding them, and like gravity basically and then it goes sideways and like splashes into the water, and you're just like, whoa,
Sure.
So I researched a little bit more about those mechanisms, and I guess typically they do need some kind of like lubricating factor, which is most of the time is some kind of oil.
Okay.
Which is not good for the environment.
Right.
And I think for the most part they do it with ships in the ocean because it's not like it's suddenly good for the environment, but because it's such a large body of water that like the amount of oil that they need to move those massive ships in the grand scheme of things is not overly alarming to get those massive ships into the ocean, because it's diluted more, or maybe it's close enough they can do something about it, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But I found out with the Branson Belle, so it was built on the White River Landing. That's like where it's near its current docking place because it's an active showboat.
What in the heck?
We were on it. We went to a show on the Branson. Yeah. The pot roast was really good.
The pot roast.
Yeah, it was like a dinner and a show thing. It was
cool.
Really trippy because we boarded and we were like waiting, you know, as everybody like finds their seats. They're like long banquet tables facing the stage. And I think it was probably like 5 minutes before I was like, are we moving right now? Like, that's how large it is that we honestly didn't even feel it start moving. Like,
that's wild, honestly.
Yeah, that was a bit trippy. And then like that almost made me dizzy, like not feeling the boat moving and moving.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second.
Like, wait, those trees are moving out there. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was built on this White River landing, but it had to get into Table Rock Lake. But again, it needed some kind of lubricant to use its natural weight of gravity to get into Table Rock Lake. But, and again, this was in the 90s. So it was like, they were like, kind of coming aware of environmental impact and that maybe oil into a much smaller area, this landlocked lake, might not have been ideal.
Right.
So can I tell you what they used to help get the Branson Belle into the lake?
Tell me.
They used bananas.
No, they didn't.
Tons.
They did not.
Bananas.
Mario Kart this thing. That is not
bananas. Straight into the lake.
Banana. Wait, okay.
Bananas.
Are we talking banana peels or just straight
bananas? I think the whole banana.
The whole banana. They didn't peel it or anything. They were just like, yeah.
Just like, they just piled it up along the route. And they gave the boat a push.
That's so silly.
And I agree offhandedly. It was probably better than oil, but I just I want to be at that lake like 6 months later.
Yeah.
I don't know how banana peels disintegrate in lake water. I don't know if the fishies would appreciate it. I don't know. They have different chemicals. They have different, like what? Better than oil. But tell me that didn't raise the potassium level of I don't know things. All I know is that I will never hear somebody saying that somebody is being a showboat the same ever again in my life. And I will never think of bananas the same again. Just
all right.
Banana.
Okay,
okay.
Okay. Because, alright, banana peels make some sense to me because for some reason, like, they do, and especially as they get, like, exposed to the air, for some reason they get a little slimy, right? They get, and then you have slime, and that's fine, and that's fine. Great. Okay, But bananas, the actual, like, fruit of the banana is pretty starchy. Is it not?
Maybe they use brown bananas. Maybe they just called up
bananas.
Everybody.
They were already slime.
In the neighborhood.
They were like, forget your banana bread.
Bring your bananas.
You don't need any banana bread. Bring those bananas here.
Listen, this will be so much cooler to talk about, okay?
I don't care if you have a potluck later. You're not making that banana bread. Bring the dang bananas here.
I want to know. I mean, it was 2 tons of bananas. And I want to know if they didn't call up the neighborhood, who had to place that order and who had to receive that order and keep a straight face. That's what I want to know.
It's very serious. We need the bananas.
I need the bananas. I got a showboat here. It's very serious business. We're getting back into the showboating. Bring your bananas.
What on earth is this? What have you brought me today? This is bananas.
I told you. I told you it was silly. I told you from the beginning.
I didn't know how to prepare myself for this.
Do you want me to put a few numbers in it to make it more serious? I'll give you some numbers.
Okay. I'm listening.
The paddle wheel is 24 feet in diameter and 16 feet wide. Doesn't that feel giant? Okay, but here's the kicker. It can only go 11 miles per hour.
Hang on. Okay. Hang on. Okay, something just occurred to me. Okay.
I love this.
You're describing a showboat.
Yes.
That in essence looks like a steamship because it's got the big wheel at the back.
Yes.
Or the front. It's
at the back.
It's at the back. Okay.
Yes.
And it's electric though. Boogie woogie woogie.
It's electric.
And
yes. And thank you for going there with me.
And then they put it in to the river, the lake with bananas on a ramp sort of situation.
Yes.
So then there's bananas and a boat with a paddle in a lake.
Yes.
And the paddle's moving and the bananas are there. What?
Yeah.
Are they just flying?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you didn't use oil, but what happened with the bananas? What happened? There aren't monkeys here. Do fish eat bananas? I don't know. This is one of those cases where I'm not going to research it further because my imagination is funny enough.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Oh my
god. And we have the Chapmans of the 1830s to thank for the idea of the showboatin'. Showboat. I'm about to,
somebody in the 1990s to thank for the banana idea. Okay.
The bananas.
Okay. The bananas.
So, the Branson Belle in 1994 was launched into the Table Rock Lake using 2 tons of bananas. And that's the thing that you know now.
The bananas.
Okay, I'm gonna go make some banana bread because there's no showboat calling me to use it to get into its lake. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye.